Well, after we spent the mornings talking about things we want to do in 20 years from now, we want to try to kick off what we're trying to do now to actually make that happen. I've got a wonderful panel here put together. I'd like to introduce Dr. Jeannie Becker, who's the Associate Director at the Eisenberg Center at Baylor. We also have Mr. Pete Hasbrook from the ISS program at JSC as an increment manager. Ed Hodgson, who's a fellow over there at Ham Sunstrand. Trey Bauer from USA in Houston. And many of you already know Frank Ceppolina, Deputy Associate Director for Space Servicing over at Goddard. Go on to the next slide, please. I want to talk a little bit about where we are today with Space Station. Many people consider Space Station as just a piece of hardware in space going round and round and round. Well, actually, it is that, but it's also a bunch of people on the ground going round and round and round, keeping it safe, keeping it operable, keeping it maintained, and planning to use it for research and technology development. The first word in International Space Station, of course, international. We have 5 partners in the program, about 15 countries. We've been in orbit since 1998 with the first launch of the FGB from Baikonur. The assembly is now essentially complete. It has, as General Bolin said earlier this morning, we have about 24 pressurized racks internal and 25 unpressurized locations outside to do research and technology development activities. It's got the room of about a 5-bedroom house. It's the largest space facility ever constructed. It also generates the largest amount of power any space platform has ever generated. Again, we've been crewed since November 2000, and all the effort to keep a crew in space for that long is humongous among 5 space agencies. Next slide, please. Why are we linked to Mars exploration and beyond LEO? You've heard a lot about this morning about all the challenges we have in cryogenic storage, transportation, propulsion, keeping people alive and healthy and safe, all those things. And most of those, or many of those, can be the risk associated with the development and operations of those technologies or capabilities can be demonstrated on the space station. Just starting with the actual station itself. The station itself is a test bed. The ability to build and operate and maintain such a complex vehicle. Any vehicles that we send to Mars or asteroids are going to be large and complex for people. Human scales for power, for propulsion, for life support, all those require immense amounts of power, and they're all very complex systems that require a lot of hands-on maintenance. So we're learning all that on space station across all the systems, whether it be thermal, Eclipse systems, power, you name it. We have all hands-on, real-world hands-on experience with the technology we have today. Also, what you'll hear a lot about in the next panel is how do we keep the crew alive and healthy and productive in space, and all the issues associated with being in space for long periods of time in a closed environment. Also, mentioned we're learning about how to, not only how do we operate these human systems like Eclipse and the like, but how do we modify them and maintain them to a level of redundancy and reliability that will get us out of low Earth orbit for extended periods. So as mentioned earlier, the space station, the U.S. portion of it, has been designated a national laboratory for non-NASA use and research across a large spectrum of physical and biological sciences. That's ongoing as well. And also we're a real-time EVA operations and test bed that's happening right now on our space station. What we're not so good about on space station is things like surface capabilities. We haven't found any strong links between mobility on the Mars surface, for instance, and capability development or research on board space station. Another is deep space radiation characterization and mitigation. We know a lot about keeping astronauts alive in the radiation environment inside the Van Allen belts that was mentioned earlier, and the microgravity environment. We don't know a lot, or the station cannot be used for mitigation in technology or other areas in that area. So we can't do everything, but we certainly can do a lot there at the space station. Next slide, please. You saw this slide earlier on the first one, and you may want to take a deep look at this picture and what's significant about this picture. And it's not the technology, it's the proximity to Earth. If you go to the next slide. If you look at the bottom half of this slide, space station is so close to Earth within 48 hours, it's like extreme car camping in space. If you've ever been car camping, you go out in the wilderness, you take your car with you, you take your stuff with you, but if you need to go get groceries, you go get groceries in your car. If somebody gets sick, you go home, or you go to the hospital. Somebody takes away your trash, or you have to haul it out yourself. All those things, we are tied to the Earth, literally tied by an umbilical to what the Earth provides for us. All these interfaces here, voice and data, that's near instantaneously. We have the crew supplies and logistics, comes up about 8 to 10 times a year. We have our crew and atmospheric samples that come down for analysis on the ground. We have our modified hardware that comes up after we figured out what breaks, and we fix it and we bring it back up. We have crew exchanges 4 times a year. You've actually, emergency return anytime. And we even have a way to get rid of our trash. Going to Mars, well, you've got voice and data. That's it. You can call home, and they will reply eventually. And the transit time, almost 2 years or greater than 2 years. In order to go here, we have to break all these things here. And station is the platform in order for us to learn how to break these boards. There is no coming back home. There's no board scenarios that allow you to come home quickly. How do we get rid of trash? Well, figure out a way to get rid of trash. Just day-to-day things that we're learning on the space station. How do you pack for a 2-year trip? Things of that nature. So with that, as far as the broad brush of ISS as a test bed and what things we have to learn and what we need to learn and how we can use that as an analog, our panel members can address some of those things, and the rest of the conference will address many of the other ones. So.